Appreciate you guys joining in. Huge news coming out. Trump came out with a statement. He said that Iran took down an Iranian Apache helicopter and he's expecting to respond. Fox News said there is going to be a major response. Trump seemed like he could be walking it back and then later kind of made a statement where he kind of made it look like he may or may not strike. But we've got our Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar on, who's going to break all of this down for us. Anthony, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. What do you think's happening?
Thank you. Well, I saw the breaking news, and we know that an Apache went down last night. We weren't aware of the cause, and immediately Donald Trump posted last night that the pilots were fine, the pilots were rescued. I'm now coming to the conclusion that last night's tweet of the pilots were fine, the pilots are rescued was premature, preemptive. Thank God that they are, if that is the case. I hope that we're not being lied to. But again, this jumping to the, hey, everything's fine here, it's just a laundry room fire, we didn't get struck, whatever the case may be, right? I think that, so what we know now is that and this is from the president and from other, obviously, news sources, that this U.S. Apache helicopter was shot down. It was shot down by a Shahed drone, and that the pilots survived and were rescued at sea because they were rescued by a U.S. sea drone. So all of these things that we know, that at the time that it happened last night, in the time that it takes from shoot down to location, etc., for Donald Trump to know within the immediacy of everything's fine, everything's okay, nothing happened here, leads to some speculation as to what the truth is. But from what we know, this Apache was shot down. Now, it's important to understand why this is significant in terms of military capability. So there's only two types of variants of the AH-64, or the attack helicopter variant 64 Apache helicopter, that would be flying in this region under the 82nd Airborne Division Brigade, Aviation Brigade, or the Combat Aviation Brigade. That's right here out of Fort Bragg. I see these Apaches flying over my house and over the highways where I drive to and from work every day, that are right here. I see them all the time. So you've got the AH-64 Delta Longbow. I think that was it's potential that this was that Apache. However, and what makes that one different, if you look at from looking at it, the AH-64 Apache Longbow has a fire control radar on it, built onto it. It's kind of like a large, looks like a large dish that sits on top of the rotor. You can very easily tell that it's that type of aircraft if it is. I think that it's more likely that this was the AH-64 Echo or the Guardian. It's the latest and greatest of the Apache models. It is fielded to the Combat Aviation Brigades, which is who would have been flying it. It's got upgraded T-700 engines, very fast, very efficient. But it also has something on it that's called the MMT, which is the manned-unmanned teaming. And here's why that matters, is because this Apache helicopter, through the pilot, can control other drones, sea drones, air drones, other drones. So if this aircraft went down, there was a sea drone that came to its rescue, it was very likely that that sea drone was part of this manned-unmanned teaming for this particular helicopter in the mission that it was doing. And what has the Apache been used for in the last, that we've known in the last month at least? They've been there longer, but over the last 30 days, we know that they've been striking aircraft with Hellfire missiles, or excuse me, striking shipping vessels with Hellfire missiles, taking out the rudders, taking out the control rooms. We know that they're conducting armed reconnaissance along the Iranian coastline. We know that they are involved in operations in the south. And either way of where it was flying, if it was in the Strait of Hormuz, which it was, shot down or at least crashed into the Gulf of Oman, and then that's where they were discovered. Either way, you're either flying in Omani territorial water over it, or over Iranian territorial water and airspace. The two. So was it likely that this aircraft was flying in Iranian airspace over Iranian territorial water, conducting armed reconnaissance? Absolutely. Now, when it was hit by this Shahed drone, if the pilots are alive and lived, then it was a clip or a hit or part of it. The entire helicopter didn't explode. You can't eject from a helicopter. Unlike what you see in jets or things like that, you don't eject from it. You go down with it. So if the pilots did survive and they're A-OK, then it wasn't a complete, blown up in the air. What's interesting, though, is that if the A-864 Echo Guardian advanced Apache attack helicopter, the most advanced in our arsenal of attack helicopters and arguably the most advanced attack helicopter in the world, was struck by a Shahed one-way drone, now we once again seen this asymmetric warfare disparity between what Iran can bring vice the super expensive things that we have. Cost out the door of the AH-64 Echo with everything on it, bells and whistles, and by the time you got a trained pilot in there with all of the equipment that he has, with the helmet that sees 360 virtual reality, augmented reality, with everything, you're talking about close to $100 million for one when it's all said and done. Taking that out with a $30,000 drone, that's a pretty big disparity in capability. So, but also looking at if a drone struck this, when you fly a drone and you're hitting a land target, that's a fixed target. You're shooting at something that's still. If they hit this helicopter out of the air as it was flying with a drone, then now we're seeing advancements to Iran's drone capability, air drone capability, which is going to bring up the level of threat in the Strait of Hormuz. And if they're providing these drones to Ansar Allah or to Hezbollah, which could then increase that on other battlefields. This is quite significant, the taking out of this helicopter with a Shahed drone. It's quite significant.
Can you explain to the audience how they would have been able to rescue these pilots? First of all, if this was I had Larry on about an hour ago, and he said if this was an intended strike, there would be no survivors. The second thing is that, first of all, how there were survivors, to how this sea drone was able to basically get both of the pilots and bring them to rescue. Can you explain this?
No, that's why when we first heard of this downed pilot mission, as you started to ask those questions, like how did this almost 50-year-old pilot, if he was an 06 colonel, as you say, and 06 colonels don't fly in combat missions, if he was an 06 colonel flying as the weapons systems officer and he was injured, how did a nearly 50-year-old man injured in enemy territory move on his own over 100 kilometers and climb a cliff to the top of a mountain to be rescued in the middle of the night? That doesn't seem logic. When you ask that, people are like, oh, well, don't ask those questions. So in this case right here, to Larry's point, if this was struck by a drone, there'd be nothing left. You remember the footage of the UH-60 Black Hawk that hit the small regional jet at Reagan over the Potomac, right? This would have been more catastrophic than that. So either we're being lied to about the casualties, we're being lied to that it was a total loss, helicopters blown to bits, the pilots are deceased. It was all of that total loss. We're being lied to about that. Or if this drone was flying in the air, this was simply a matter of horrible circumstance to where Apaches flying, drones being sent over, lucky hit, and it didn't hit the main cabin and hit the tail rotor off. Either way, if this helicopter was hit by something like a drone, even a unintentional or intentional, I don't see anybody surviving it. So we're being lied to we're being lied to on one aspect of this, of whether how it was taken down or who survived. Because then to your next point, if they were rescued by this sea drone, a sea drone doesn't have a captain and a crew. There's no people on it. What did they do? Just hold on to it and it brought them back to shore? I mean, how do you rescue 2 people with a sea drone? So when how did they get rescued? If we're saying they got rescued by a sea drone, did the sea drone identify them and then provide them immediate life support on scene through flotation, like like in the Titanic when they're on the headboard? Do we have 2 guys, two pilots hanging out there like the ending scene of the Titanic? I don't know. Seems impossible. So a lot of things aren't making sense. They were rescued by a sea drone. Okay. Not entirely, not in totality. Maybe it found them, but was there a rescue mission? What happened to that rescue mission? Because if I'm Iran and I hit this intentionally and I know where this thing went down, well, I'm waiting for the rescue mission to come because there's another prime target, right? We're at war. We're at war. So a lot of it's not making sense in terms of what we're being told. We're not being told the whole truth. In the truth that we're given half truths and equivocations. So if an aircraft was shot down by a drone, that's concerning in terms of the capability that these drones now possess or are capable of doing. And if that is true, I find it very unlikely or untrue that the pilots survived. And if anything, at least unscathed. Like I said, you can't eject out of a helicopter. You can't jump out of it. You can't eject out of it. Certainly not out of the Apache is not like the Black Hawk with the side doors are open, or the Little Bird where the sides are open. The Apache is a cockpit. It closes, you can't just jump out of the thing, and you can't eject. There's no parachute. So if you're shot down in a helicopter, you're going down with it. So you're praying for a survivable landing. So I don't know what's the truth and what's the lie. Either the strike, something's not right, or it did happen and we do have American deaths. And this is why Donald Trump is so adamant about responding, because remember the red line he made: if we have any U.S. deaths, then I'm going to do something about it. Okay, well, if the 2 pilots survived and nothing's wrong and it's just the helicopter, why would we go back into open hostilities? I think it's likely that the pilots did not survive, and that members of Congress, members of the military, they know that. They're not going to let Trump off the hook. They may let him get away with the lying, but they're not going to let him get away with not doing anything. So I think that we're going to see a retaliation coming. I can only pray, and I would hope that his military advisors advise him to make it proportional and specific, or this is going to escalate even further beyond what it's already escalated. The U.S. is going to retaliate. There'll likely be some kind of retaliation in response to that. And depending on how Donald Trump retaliates will dictate the Iranian retaliation. But you see where we are now between just 24 hours ago, how this is rapidly spiraling out of control back into full war. Quickly.
Something you said that this is going to go back to war for sure. Guys, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Let's try and get as many people in here as possible. If you're on the X Space, retweet it. Let's get as many people in. Now, I want to go through a couple of points with you, first of all. The first one is the statement by Trump. So initially, actually, no, let's go with the original statement by Trump. So originally, Trump said this, quote, "I've just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured. Nevertheless, the United States of America must, out of necessity, respond to this attack. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump." And then Professor Morandi said, "For the record, Iran did not shoot down the helicopter and Trump is lying. But the Islamic Republic is more than prepared to teach the Epstein coalition a lesson." And Iran's foreign minister said the following, quote, "Foreign forces in proximity to our territory are at a constant risk on account of their own human errors, plain accidents, or potentially being caught in crossfire. To reduce risk, best solution is for them to leave. We prefer language of diplomacy, but speak other languages too." What's your thoughts on this?
Pretty powerful message coming back from Iran, and back to the Apache. Is it possible we're being lied to about the Iranians striking it? Sure. Is it possible that we're being lied to about the survivors? Sure. Another possible scenario is that it was struck, but it wasn't struck by Iran, that it could have been struck by us. And in order to cover for that folly, we're blaming Iran. Perfect pretense. Perfect reason to retaliate, right? With perfect reason. And it was us that did it. Because when you consider, depending on where it may have been flying, and where the Shahed drone typically flies, your weapon of choice to go after an AH-64 Apache helicopter wouldn't be one of your Shahed drones. So either that was a coincidental strike, got lucky, wasn't planned. They wouldn't do that intentionally. So either that it was a strike is a lie and nothing happened, and this is just a pretense. It did happen, but it could have been us, the U.S., that hit it. Imagine an AH-64 Apache, limited visibility hours, coming back in over the crest of the horizon, back to the aircraft carrier that it took off from, or back to the base it took off from. I think some of these are now carrier-borne, at least for initial takeoff. And you can't really see what it is. Maybe it has its beacon flipped off because of the Iranian threat, and it took an American phalanx. A phalanx gun on the deck of a battleship or an aircraft, or excuse me, on the deck of a cruiser, wouldn't blow up the helicopter. It can certainly do some significant damage. But if these pilots survived a shoot down unscathed, uninjured into the ocean, I'm not buying it. So either the strike didn't happen, or it did, and there are soldiers dead, or the strike did happen, and or there are soldiers dead, or it didn't happen and the soldiers are alive and well, or none of it happened at all, or it was a shoot down by an American naval asset out at sea. I could totally see it. Do we have blue on blue friendly fire incidents all the time? We sure do. So that's another possibility. It could have been a friendly fire incident, and now the Trump administration is looking at this as a pretense to blame Iran, to cover for the embarrassment, to then have the perfect reason to retaliate, to escalate. And then what happened to these soldiers, yes or no? Who knows?
Yeah. Now, we did have this statement coming out from Trump, what he said to the Wall Street Journal. And I don't know if he's trying to basically pull out of the situation or go in a vague, keeping it vague. But what he said is in a gray area, so you don't know if he's going to hit or not. So then you do, when he strikes, he thinks people won't expect it. But he said the following. He said he was asking about whether he's going to respond in relation to the Apache helicopter. He said, quote, "I don't have to do anything. We hold all the cards. I don't have to do, but look, we probably will, okay? They can't be doing that." What's your thoughts on what he had to say there?
There will be a retaliation. The war hawks who hold his political future and potential, keeping him out of prison, the Lindsey Grahams, the Ted Cruzes, the Miriam Adelsons, and AIPAC, there will be a response. I can only hope that that response is understood by the military as that, hey, we have to do something, wink, wink, and that's measured and proportional. I pray that we don't respond to the taking down of a. I pray that we don't respond to the taking down of an Apache helicopter by bombing an elementary school, or hitting a desalination plant, or bombing Karag Island. I sincerely hope not. If that happens, then that means that this was just pretense, that was already going to happen, and they just needed a reason to make it look good. So could there be a very precise, scaled, proportional response? Let's say taking out a radar station, or taking out an air defense missile system, or taking out one of the Swift boats, to say, tit for tat, threat for threat. There you go. Could be as easy as that. But in terms of a retaliation from this administration, it will come. And any retaliation will come directly from the President of the United States. I'm quite certain that anything in the Gulf of Oman or near the Strait, unless it is an absolute self-defense in the moment of, that anything being fired, shot at this point, comes from the president.
Yeah, I mean, look, this does seem like an excuse to go back to war, right? Anthony, me and you spoke about this many a times. I think we were very confident throughout, even when people thought there was going to be a peace deal, that there wasn't going to be a deal and this was going to go back to war. And look, he could have easily brushed this off, right? He could have easily said,
Sure.
look, this is an accident. Let's move on. We're going to get the deal. The fact that he's using this and he's kind of highlighted it to then go back to war, this is just merely an excuse, isn't it? What's your thoughts?
Well, it is, because in all of the responses that could have been, unless his his handler for the night didn't get to his phone in time while they were at the game. Because remember, this happened during the fourth quarter of the game last night, where he was. So, um, in any response, when the president of the United States is responding to something like this, it has meaning, it has power, it carries weight. And I've been in situations where we're talking about what should the commander say? What should the central command commander say? What should the Department of Defense say when there's something like this? And you go through a series of options. Hey, sir, we can say nothing. We can say, yeah, that they were conducting a reconnaissance, and that's all we're going to say. Pilots are fine. Sorry, not going to answer to an ongoing military operation, right? The typical response. They could have said that. They could have said, yeah, we are conducting operations to guide and escort in the Strait of Hormuz. This was a part of that, and in being so, there was a strike, but we realized what's going on, and the president's red lines are the loss of any the death of any soldiers. This did not result in death. Stern warning to Iran: stop. Let's negotiate, and you leave it at that, or you choose some kind of limited. All of these options are provided to the president, provided to the SecDef. That's why the military senior advisors exist, is to provide best military advice. So out of all those options that the Department of Defense is now working up, or already has really from Central Command, what Donald Trump chooses will give us a clear indication as to the intent of where this is going to continue. If there's no response, maybe Donald Trump is trying to find something in the realm of negotiation to get out of this. If there's a limited response, then Donald Trump still very much is looking at the use of military strength to render a negotiations outcome, which to me then leads to, well, we're going to keep fighting, or a massive response, which then leads to me that Donald Trump and Netanyahu, Israel, and the U.S. Are all in back on this thing, and this was just the pretense they needed. This was the Gulf of Tonkin they needed to send 150,000 into Vietnam.
We got some more reports. First one is on Israeli Channel 14 News. They say, following the downing of the U.S. Apache helicopter, U.S. President Trump and Netanyahu spoke this evening. So that sounds like they were either planning something or deciding what they're going to do. In addition to that, the SNIM news agency is reporting that an informed military source has said that if the enemy commits renewed mischief under the pretext of a military helicopter crash, it will face a decisive response. What's your thoughts about both of those things, Anthony?
Yeah, like I said, in the options that are there, let's say this is in the reality of this is that it wasn't shot down. It was either shot down by friendly or had a mechanical failure and crashed. It would also be embarrassing for the A864 Echo Guardian, the most premier, Donald Trump even admitted, one of our, best, most exquisite helicopters. It would be absolutely embarrassing if this thing had a mechanical failure or if a pilot error in crashing $100 million helicopter. So if Iran is their position on this is that, hey, we didn't shoot it down. And if you're going to use that as pretense to come back at us, knowing, like, we know verifiably we didn't shoot it down, and this is just your excuse to go back to war, well, then it's on. Gloves are off, full on. We're going at it. So if Donald Trump does respond, it seems to me that Iran has already decided that if you retaliate, you're doing it as a cover up for something that we didn't do. And we are going to respond massively. So if there is a U.S. response, I would imagine that there's going to be a 1.5 times as they've said they would do from Iran.
Why do you think this is happening? And this is there was an article by the New York Times that came out today. And in there, they basically said that these were the parameters by which there was going to be an agreement. And the parameters are like full on American Trump maximalist demands. None of them are things that Iran would agree to. For example, a stopping of enrichment of uranium for 15 years. So taking that into consideration and then Trump escalating here, are these all excuses to get everybody ready for an attack?
Yeah, from the beginning, we have seen no change to Donald Trump's maximalist position and proposal. He's come off some of the bombastic language of unconditional surrender, no quarter, we're going to bomb you into the Stone Age. That did not age well. But in terms of his maximalist demands in any negotiation, that he's never changed on that position. Want the uranium? Want the uranium, and you can't enrich it. I want once you've gone out of the Strait of Hormuz, we're not going to lift your frozen assets. Scott Bessent's already given that to other Gulf allies. Sorry, we don't have it anymore. And we're not going to lift sanctions until you meet conditions A, B, and C. What if you're Iran? You're like, might as well just fight. We might as well just fight for a better outcome because that sucks. Donald Trump's position has never changed. What negotiation we're doing now that Donald Trump might be considering, but no change to the conditions, that's not a negotiation. That's just insanity. Continuing on the same course of the same thing you've been doing with expecting a different outcome, it's not going to be, Iran's going to say no. Because of that, because we now know that Donald Trump is absolutely adamant on his maximalist position of I want it all and I want it all and I want it all. It really doesn't give a lot of pathways to peace or pathways to a ceasefire and peace talks. This looks like the pathway to war, and Donald Trump needed pretense, right? If everything was quiet and remained quiet in the Gulf, well, then it soon comes to a point where Donald Trump's now like, well, the only reason we're here now, the only reason we're not negotiating is because of Israel. So now, with the pretense of this, and the U.S. retaliates or responds and heightens the war directly between the U.S. and Iran, well, now we're there because we're fighting. And we're also fighting for Israel. But without something for us to get back into the shooting game or the shooting war, it looks like we're just there for Israel, the only reason we're there. And Donald Trump can't survive that politically either. So Netanyahu, political position-wise, he's fighting for his political survival. He wants to continue war. He has crossed the Rubicon. Donald Trump is like on a floaty in the Rubicon. He can't go back and he can't go across. He's stuck in the middle because his base will not let him leave with nothing, and everyone else is demanding that he end it. So I think the only option to that, you got to have a pretense to restart the shooting war. You got to get action starting against QESHM, and you got to figure out a way to get a commando operation in to seize some uranium. That's his ticket out. Showing the American people and showing the war hawk base back in the United States that we have it absolutely. No more talk about enriching or not enriching. We got it. We got it all. Doesn't matter what they try to do. We got it. So I think that's what he's still going for. And this is just another convenient step towards making that happen. In the next few days here, we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of escalation in Lebanon and in the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, speaking about Lebanon, one of the kind of things I was thinking about, I don't know if it's something that I was hypothesizing, was that Israel's bombed South Lebanon. Iran said that if you bomb South Lebanon, we're going to respond. So we were expecting, me coming in today, I was expecting a response by Iran for the attacks on South Lebanon. Now, is it possible that Trump became aware that Iran's about to strike Israel, and then he's going to have to this time jump in because the damage that was caused last time was significant? We now have reports that 5 of their military bases were struck. And so he needs to now defend them. And he thinks that if he goes and defends them, it's going to look once again like he's gone into kinetic for Israel. And so this becomes an excuse for another reason. What's your thoughts about this?
Bingo. Becomes a very convenient excuse. When you look at the responses, why hasn't Iran responded yet? If they said that if anything happened, because as we speak and throughout the day, Lebanon has been just bombarding Tyre, just hitting them very hard with aerial bombardment and artillery. There was a really large blast a few hours ago that, looking at the blast, clearly indicates the dropping of a JDAM, 2,000-pound joint deployed air munition, and artillery, both on that. So why hasn't Iran responded? So I think this is the position that Iran found themselves in as these things developed. Okay, if we go retaliate on Israel now in the midst of this not being clear with this Apache, the United States and Israel are trying to paint the picture of us, Iran, being unhinged cowboys hitting at everything. So let's make sure that this Apache situation, let's get our statement out there and make it clear that we didn't strike that. That's not don't pin that on us, America. If you want that to be your excuse, do so with the knowledge of it is a lie and you are escalating the war. So if you do that, we're going to defend ourselves. Then with Lebanon, I think their response to what Israel is doing in southern Lebanon today is coming. Hasn't come yet, but it is coming, because Iran, I think, has to do some work with, this happens, right? And maybe Russia and China are like, IRGC, like, what are you doing, guys? We said try to cool it. Like, let's try to cool things. We didn't do it. We didn't do that. Like, that wasn't us. Here's the evidence. Look, here's our launch sites, because they'll share that information with China and Russia. Here's our launch sites. We didn't do it. Okay, and then Russia and China say, all right, well, then we got your back still. But if you start going crazy and going rogue, we can't support all that. We're trying to chill it out. So I think that Iran did some work to shore up the diplomatic ties, to make sure that Russia and China and others know that they didn't do this and they're in the right. And any type of retaliation is offensive in nature and a lie, while they prepare their response to the continued strikes in southern Lebanon. So it's coming. They think through things the second and third order before they just respond. So the response is coming, and they will be ready to respond to and defend against whatever the U.S. escalation is. And again, I think we're going to see a U.S. response that is completely disproportional to this. So if you shot one of our helicopters that was doing reconnaissance in your backyard, everybody lived, but hey, we're going to now bomb everything. That wouldn't make sense. So the U.S. response is going to give us a clear indication as to where this is heading in the immediate future. Iran will respond to the strikes going on in southern Lebanon at a time of their choosing. They're just putting the pieces together.
So Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Garibabadi has said that he told Al Jazeera that the U.S. Apache helicopter that went down over the Strait of Hormuz on Sunday was not deliberately targeted by Iran. Also, the commander of the Islamic Republic of Iran Army Ground Forces, Major General Ali Jahanshahi, has said that Iran is fully prepared to give a crushing and decisive response to any potential threat. And some major breaking news. We are hearing that there is possibly explosions in SIRIK. Obviously, this could be defense interceptor missiles, so I'm not going to change the title, but I am hearing reports that there are possible explosions in SIRIK. Any initial comments? Okay, now I'm hearing there are explosions in allegedly BANDAR, ABBAS, and QESHM Island as well. Anthony, I can see your face. You're like, I'm not surprised. Do you want to elaborate? Because you've been saying this for a week or 2 weeks.
Well, not only am I not surprised, it's kind of what we laid out as we've been speaking in this conversation, that a U.S. response, what would it look like? If it's something that's very specific and tactical against the perceived threat, then we're looking at a tit-for-tat proportional response. I said if we start striking things like QESHM Island or BANDAR, ABBAS or SIRIK, I was off by a little bit because I said maybe Josk, but SIRIK, there's also portions of the first IRGCN Naval Division there as well, and it's a coastal defense port or base island. It's not big, but they have some stuff there. So they're doing. To me, this is the response that kind of indicates you had this ready. This is not a proportional response to the react to contact response from the Apache being shot down. This was art. If this is true, what we're hearing now, and if it is coming from the United States, then this was already planned. This was already loaded into the computer, so to speak. The code was built. This was ready to go. Peter Thiel already wrote the AI code for this targeting sequence, and here we go. This was not a response. This was planned, and all they needed was the pretense. And where are they hitting? Again, QESHM Island. That's very concerning now. For the third response in a row is QESHM Island. Because what have I said? What have I continued to say? That if we're going to do some type of naval operation to seize temporary control or influence over the Strait of Hormuz, tactical operational task that I just put you right there, seize and control, you have to do something on QESHM so that you can gain some localized air power, because there's an airfield there, blind them temporarily. So I think this all portends to me that we're going down that road of an operation to inflict some type of control under the Strait of Hormuz as a way to then go in and get our hands on some type of uranium. It's coming.
Some more breaking news. Reports indicate, just to add to more of the point that you're saying, reports indicate 4 explosions occurring within the vicinity of QESHM Island. So,
so there's, in vicinity of the island. So on the island, in vicinity of the QESHM critical infrastructure, or on islands around QESHM, because you remember, not too far off the northwestern tip, you have the Greater and Lesser Tanab Islands. Off of the southeastern point closest to Bandar Abbas, you have, and that's all, right in here. You have, that's where you have Hormuz Island and SIRIK Island, right in there. So a lot of little islands
just
around.
On the map,
QESHM.
where could that be? If you could show the audience QESHM Island, and where could that be if you've got it on you? Because I know you're.
Yeah. So this. I mean, I don't know if y'all can see it here, but it's even this. This island right here. That's QESHM. So here's the strait. And here's Bandar Abbas. Here's Oman. Here's the strait. And then right there, that is QESHM Island. So if you look at where this Apache went down earlier in the coming days in the Gulf of Oman, that was right over here, not in the Persian Gulf, but here. So if that aircraft came in here and was downed around here, then it was very likely conducting an armed reconnaissance of the islands around QESHM or QESHM Island itself. So the geography is now coming together to where it looks like this was already planned. This mission with this Apache was an armed reconnaissance. Something went wrong. This is the perfect pretense now to then say, oh, that's the thing we need to go back into this. And you see the response now. It's coordinated and synchronized. This is not we got to respond. This is, hey, pull the plan off the shelf. Let's do it. We have the green light. All we needed was the reason. Let's do it. So that's what we're seeing. And it's all the places that we've been fearing. If these were hit, like I said, if these were striking some of the coastal facilities against some of the swift boats or against a drone, a known location for a drone launcher, I would say, okay, that's specific, that's proportional, and that's justified. Law of war. Well, common sense of war. You don't want to waste resources. This response is, oh, this was already planned, and we just needed the reason to go. And what is it all planned for? Again, seeing strikes on QESHM Island. I think there is a naval operation afoot to conduct a amphibious and or naval assault into the straits to seize control for a specified amount of time based on what the president wants to achieve in the world media, while an operation goes in to seize some uranium, and Donald Trump wants to have this thing over soon.
Okay, there are also more statements. And by the way, this needs to be verified. So just be clear on that. This is only coming from a couple of sources. Unconfirmed reports indicate that the Shahid Rahib base in Minab, Hormozgan province, has also been targeted as well. So this could be, again, I'm only seeing it from one or two sources, so do take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, that's the latest news on that.
Yeah, and so Manab is right there in the same vicinity as Bandar Abbas, so right there on that in the coastal line, Manab, Hormuzgan province. So again, if I even thought if there is a potential drone launch facility near Bandar Abbas or Manab, then I could see that as that target would make sense if it's in response to a Shahed drone shooting down the Apache. But all the others are obviously pre-planned, ready to go. It's yeah, I don't think that this was something that is just a reflexatory response. I think this was pre-planned.
Yeah, we are just obviously continuing to continue to give you the information as and when we receive it. Lots of news coming out, obviously, so we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, this information is only coming from one or two sources. I'm actually seeing some of it's from one source and the others are from a couple of more sources. Now I'm hearing it from a few more sources. So, okay, now we're getting a bit more verification. But again, just take it with a grain of salt because, when news comes out immediately, then we find out that it could have been defense interceptors. But apparently 6 explosions have been reported in the naval base in SIRIK. So if on your map, where would that be, Lieutenant Col Anthony Aguilar? On SIRIK?
Down in, so SIRIK is further down in the, further down, where Iran has this coastline into the Gulf of Oman. It's further down here. About right here off my map, you would have the coastal city of Jask. SIRIK would be kind of like right in there. Where Iran shares that longer coastline with the Gulf of Oman. As the coastline comes down and touches Pakistan, where you have Bandar Shah, another IRGC-N base. So SIRIK Island, it's a substantial naval base. The IRIN, or the basically the Iranian Navy, has a headquarters there, and the IRGC Navy, the IRGC-N, has the headquarters of their 1st Naval Division there, and that's kind of a point of opportunity to exploit. I can understand why the U.S. is hitting those areas, because that's where you have the area of responsibility for the IRGC and the IRGC-N, or the IRGC Navy, is the Persian Gulf, and the area of responsibility for the Iranian Navy is the Gulf of Oman, and they share responsibility in the Strait of Hormuz. So if you want to exploit time and tempo, where you're exploiting between the seam of two different commands, you kind of want to hit there. SIRIK Island, Jask, those southern, those southeastern islands off of QESHM, which is Hormuz Island, and there's another one there. It starts with an L. I can't quite remember. You mentioned it before.
Ladakh.
Thank you, Ladakh Island. So that all makes sense if you're trying to exploit frictions to potentially conduct a naval operation. You don't just fire missiles and blow up radars to then just do nothing. And we've been doing this for, we're softening the target. Remember we talked about that, like preparatory fires, softening the target. QESHM has been hit now for the 3rd day in a row. So
okay, we now have confirmation. Okay, this has definitely started. The war has restarted. We have got drones spotted over Tehran. We've got warplanes flying over and circling the Zahrani area. Apparently, the Americans have made a statement saying the bombing of Iran has begun. Hebrew channel Kan has said U.S. command announces the start of an attack against Iranian targets in response to the downed Apache helicopter yesterday. We have begun launching self-defense strikes against Iran, is what Central Command is saying. U.S. Central Command, there is a statement out for them saying U.S. Central Command forces began launching self-defense strikes against Iran at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is 20 minutes ago. So you're getting the breaking news live. At the Commander-in-Chief's direction in response to yesterday's downing of U.S. Army Apache helicopters. The mission is proportional response to the unjustified Iranian aggression. So the Americans are attacking Iran right now. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, what's your thoughts?
Not surprised. You know, as I continue to go through this as we're talking, I don't really necessarily feel like the "I told you so" because I don't think that anybody doubts anything that we've been talking about. But I just said to myself, like, you know, at some point here, the American people need to start trusting those of us, the Joe Kents, me, and others that know what we're talking about and have given fair warning to where this is going. This new escalation right now, I'm telling, this is the time that I think in the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to see the groundwork for naval operations into the Strait. Remember, the U.S. Navy has not penetrated into the Strait of Hormuz yet. So we got a lot of work to do. And I think that it's coming. I mean, we're back into it now.
I mean, Anthony, I think it was just me and you were the last men standing who kept on saying, this is going to restart. This is going to restart. Even someone I love a lot, like Larry, even Larry got convinced that deal is coming from his sources. But we were adamant. Where did you get this confidence that the war was going to restart?
Because I've lived these things. I was, you know, I can't tell you how many times we were told to leave, go back, leave, go back, leave, go back from Syria. And as a young major, I thought to myself that I should, you know, that, hey, this is, you know, the commander-in-chief talks, this is what we're doing. And everything that we're seeing right now with these negotiations happen. I remember when we were in northeast Syria and it got really, really tense with Turkey, between the U.S. and Turkey, because of the Syrian Democratic Forces leadership was the PKK, which even we designate as a terrorist organization. And Turkey was like, hey, get your SDF Kurds out of northern Syria. And we kept saying, we need them to defeat ISIS. And as soon as we declared the defeat of ISIS, Turkey was like, okay, get them out. We were on the doorstep of potentially defending the SDF against a NATO ally. And we backed off from that. But then the president himself tweeted, we're leaving Syria. Okay, so we started blowing everything in place, you know, blow up the computers, blow everything up. Let's get out of here. Oh, wait, stop. We're not leaving Syria. Well, you can't unblow up all that stuff that we just blew up. So you go back and you're like, well, now I need all this stuff again. We've been doing this now for 12 years. This same thing in Syria with go back, come back, go back, come back. Russia's going to take care of this. We don't need, Turkey's coming in. We don't need this. We're leaving, we're coming. We're leaving, we're coming. We're leaving, we're coming. Iraq, the entirety of Iraq since the capture of Saddam Hussein and the declaration of the end of hostilities in Iraq 22 years ago, or 24 years ago, has been, no, 22 years ago, has been, we're going, we're coming, we're going, we're coming, we're going. There's a deal on the table. There's a deal on the table. There's a deal on the table. Donald Trump or any president in my lifetime that says there are deals on the table is like the dad that went to get milk and never came home. There's no deal.
Guys, make sure you like this video on YouTube. Let's get as many people in here as possible. We're the only place breaking news, and as well on the X space. We're going to continue giving the news. Guys, I'm going to unmute the mic, but if there's anybody who sees major breaking news, then do jump in and let me know. But other than that, do not interrupt. Reports of more explosions in QESHM Island. More explosions in QESHM Island. So you think they're just softening this up for something bigger, right? Because they keep saying this is a limited proportional response, but you don't agree with that, right?
This is certainly not proportional. I mean, this is not proportional. In addition to it not being proportional, why continue to strike QESHM if we have, you know, taken out the radars, we've taken out the eyes and ears? Why would we continue to strike QESHM? It would be very interesting to me to know where these strikes are now on QESHM, because I think that we're going to, with the strikes that are happening on QESHM right now, in this. If you look at the map here again, QESHM Island, right there, where the airfield is, there's an airfield here. QESHM Island at one point had an international airport. International because, you know, from there you could fly to Oman, boom, international. QESHM has an international airport, but it still has all of its function. If you're the United States and you want to seize an asset, key terrain, if I'm looking at this map, I'm identifying key terrain. The Strait of Hormuz, key terrain. The airfield at QESHM Island, key terrain. Looking at that and why that's key terrain, because if you can seize the airfield at QESHM, and I'm not talking about forever. I'm talking about for a period of time, let's say 24 hours. Not in 24 hours, but I'm saying once seized, hold it for 24 hours. You send in an amphibious assault group, you seize the terrain, you send in the Rangers to seize the airfield. Once you have seized the airfield, you begin staging assets at this airfield as a forward staging base, and then you begin putting assets together to then go into a raid to get your hands on this uranium.
Okay, so more breaking news. Satellite communication signals of drones detected. Gulf states. I want your thoughts on this one, but I'm going to just read the rest of it and I'll come back to it. Gulf states scramble air defense systems in preparation for Iranian attacks on U.S. bases. We're also hearing reports that there could be cruise missiles were also fired at Iran allegedly. We're seeing hostile warplanes flying over the skies of the south. Kuwait and Bahrain are on high alert. Military strikes against Iran came at the direct orders of President Trump. This is U.S. Central Command. The Channel 14, as I mentioned, the Israeli media did say that Trump called Netanyahu to inform him of the U.S. attack on Iran, obviously getting permission and probably doing some coordination. This is a major blow-up. What's Iran's response going to be? Iran's response cannot be something minor as, and I'm not saying it's minor, but it just cannot be just an attack on Bahrain and Kuwait. That's just simply not going to be good enough. This will just basically get the Americans to think that they can continue doing this, right?
In the coming hours, the map will be red. The Gulf will be on fire. Kuwait, Israel, Bahrain. I don't know if they'd waste any more on Bahrain.
UAE.
Maybe, depending on what they got hidden there. The UAE, potentially Qatar, because remember the U.S. Central Command headquarters is still there in Doha. Doha is still an active airbase. They removed a lot of people, but it still has capacity. So, yeah, the Gulf states are going to burn.
This is significant escalation. Donald Trump has taken the United States of America back into war again.
This is not proportional to a downed helicopter. A downed helicopter of which the pilots are allegedly A-OK. This is not proportional to that.
Yeah, this is a significant escalation, right? This is to take things a lot further than is required. And the aim is to bring the war back on because in reality, he knows when he was close to a peace deal, the Zionist lobby, the Israeli lobby pushed against it. So that's what made it obvious to me. When I saw all the pushback, it was obvious there was never going to be a deal. And even when I started getting a bit of doubts, these were the things that would always convince me, no, there's not going to be a deal.
There's from the very beginning of deals and negotiations, when the United States was even saying they were serious, when it even looked like it gave the perception of being real. Hey guys, super important negotiations to potentially offset World War III against Iran. Who are we going to send? Who do we send? Bert and Ernie, Jared and Steve, Witkoff and Kushner. Really? That's who we're sending? That's our Kissinger? What? Like, no, there's never been any negotiations. This has never been serious. When you send J.D. Vance and Bert and Ernie to negotiate the offsetting of potential for World War III, you're not serious. You're not serious. So when you look at the negotiations have never been genuine. Donald Trump has never sought. The only negotiation Donald Trump would accept at all ever is the complete and total unconditional surrender and ceding of everything from Iran. In fact, he said that on March 1st. So that's not a negotiation. Anything that we've seen in that time, peace talks, we're back to negotiations, ceasefire, has just been giving the United States an opportunity to reload, move assets, reposition assets, and get ready for the next round. And this round, I'm telling you, is taking us, we are very close now to that precipice of unrestricted warfare.
So
and what's after that? The next time this goes from hiatus to escalation, we're at total war.
Yeah, some more breaking news, and that is this. Trump briefed Netanyahu on the details of the latest attack. So he's given his brief to the person who's really in charge. We're also seeing projectile impact confirmed in SIRIK, but location and manner and breadth and depth of it are not specified. Some sources reporting hearing explosions and air defense activity in Bandar Abbas, QESHM, and SIRIK as well. Trump just said to ABC News, I think it's very important to respond. They shot down a helicopter and we are responding right now. This is a response to what they did to our helicopter last night. I believe the response should be strong and powerful. Explosions heard in QESHM, and he's saying it's strong and powerful himself, so this isn't a minor response. You mentioned it just about a couple of minutes ago. Explosions heard in QESHM and SIRIK, and in the Hormuzgan province, southern Iran. The IRGC said that the Aerospace Force announced that a heavy response to the enemy's hostile actions will be given in moments. So it seems like Iran is going to be responding very soon. According to IRB report in QESHM, a location in QESHM was attacked a few minutes ago. According to informed sources, 6 sounds of explosions were heard in QESHM. Apparently, these projectiles were fired from a fighter jet. Again, sounds of explosions in QESHM. Iran said that they will be, or Iran is threatening to retaliate immediately. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, we heard reports about, I would say about an hour ago, just before you came on, where it said that there were a large number of fighter jets over Iraq. So I know with your map you've shown the audience before, what would be the route of the attack for these fighter jets in order to strike Iran?
Well, here's Basra, here's Iraq, going, bloop, you're in Iran, clear way to, highway to the danger zone, as they would say in Top Gun, to Tehran. If this was a limited response, we wouldn't see sorties being scrambled, flying, preparing potentially to fly in. So I think over the course of the last few days, where we all maybe not necessarily have lost track, but the math has become almost impossible to recalculate of where have tankers been moved? Where have they been strategically staged? Where have we established forward area refueling points? Where have we moved specific aircraft, F-15s, F-22s, F-35s? What's staged and where under the auspice of all this other stuff going on, peace talks, which weren't happening, but while we were restaging critical assets. So where things now can take off from is to be seen. I don't think we have everything sitting in Tel Aviv. I don't think we have everything sitting in one location. I think we probably have a lot that's going to be coming from the Gulf states and in various areas. Nothing, again, why did they strike or threaten to strike Iran, threatening to strike Saudi Arabia? Because the 387th Bombardment Air Wing of the U.S. Air Force is there. There's KC-130 tankers there. There's F-15s there. There's C-130s and C-17s there. So when you consider bringing everything together with logistics, i.e. fuel, the aircraft, when you have a lot of aircraft flying around, you got to reload them with munitions. This isn't like the movies where the missiles and the bombs are endless. You have to reload those things. When you're talking about reloading aircraft, either on an aircraft carrier or hot loading on the deck of a runway, these are all very complicated operations. Landing an aircraft that's hot, reloading it with bombs that could go off because of the heat, and getting them back into the fight without blowing up yourself. All things you have to consider. So these aircraft that are moving, if they're coming out of Iraq, I think they're probably going to take the northern route towards Tehran or those areas in northern Iran. If they're coming out of the south, then they're obviously going to hit those. And you don't have to necessarily emanate anything from anywhere else in the south, because we already have the aircraft carriers that have tons of jets and Harriers and aircraft. So you already have kind of the south ALOC air line of communication or path already established with what we have in the south. So we're now seeing the potentiality of air sorties coming in from the south, air sorties coming in from the north. This is starting to look like the Gulf War 82nd Airborne Division and the 101st classic pincher maneuver, where you come in from the north, you come in from the south, you squeeze resources and assets, and then boom, what's the punch? I think the punch is going to be some type of operation to see some uranium.
We got some more breaking news. You already predicted it. Are you Nostradamus? Because Mehr News are reporting that there's explosions, but you said about Jask. Well, unconfirmed reports indicate that the US has attacked Velayat naval base in Bandar Jask in Iran as well. You expecting that, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're gonna hit in the south, striking the IRGCN and the IRIN naval bases, the naval division headquarters and units along those island chains and along that coast will be critical. That's not only key terrain and key infrastructure militarily, that's also key in terms of mission command or leadership. Remember, we've talked about warfighting functions. Mm-hmm. You've got mission command, that's your leadership. You've got protection, you've got your logistics, you've got maneuver, you've got fires, you've got when all these things come together, that's how you fight war. So if you're about to go into an invasion or some type of a high intensity conflict, you want to hit those things first. So these strikes that we're seeing are directed against the command and control components. The IRGCN and the IRIN have significant headquarters and assets in those small little island chains that we don't hear about very much. SIRIK, Hormuz Island, Latak Island, Larak Island. We don't hear them a lot, but there's a lot of resources there. So if you're the United States and you're striking all of that simultaneously to some type of air operation that's obviously coming together in the north, we haven't seen it yet. Something's coming together. This has all been coordinated and planned well in advance. The Apache was just the spark to the powder keg, and I don't even know if that actually happened.
Exactly. I doubt that as well. I think it's a false flag.
It may not have even happened.
Exactly. It's a great point, because you've explained how like either it didn't happen or there should be no pilots who are alive, because it makes no sense. We've got a US official stating to Al Jazeera, our forces continue to launch strikes against Iran in self-defense, and the operation is still ongoing. So the launches on attacks on Iran are continuing. It's not over. This is happening right now. Guys, if you're on X, retweet the space. If you're on YouTube, press the like and let everybody know about it. We are the only place that gives breaking news live, and we've got Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar on with us, and we've got many other experts coming after too. Make sure you like this video, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel, have your notification on. It's the only place to be for breaking news. We're hearing renewed explosions in Bandar Abbas. This is according to Mehr News in Iran. So this is all confirmed. I mean, this is a lot bigger than we thought. I thought either Trump's gonna, I knew Trump was gonna respond. When he made that kind of vague statement, I did think that he was thinking, oh, I'm playing 4D chess. Like, I'm making it look like I may not respond, but I am gonna respond. But I was thinking maybe the response might be a bit more limited, but this is quite a excessive, extravagant, ongoing response. This is essentially the start of the war again. There's no way this won't be retaliated on in a significant, ferocious manner.
These aren't something that Donald Trump could simply pass off as love taps or just, things that happen during a ceasefire. And This is not Donald Trump backing out and saying, "Well, it's not us." The past few days that's been Israel and Iran, not us. This is now the United States. All in. The ceasefire is over. There are no negotiations. The United States is going to take advantage of this for some type of grander military operation that has already been planned, has already been prepared. The train has left the station. Something is coming.
Yeah. And now the question mark's going to become, what is Iran's response going to be? Obviously, guys, we'll continue to give you the news as and when we receive it, and it is coming out thick and fast. Unconfirmed reports have emerged listing initial targets of U.S. strikes in Iran, including the naval bases in SIRIK and Jask, air defense positions in Bandar Abbas, the coastal missile batteries at Minab and QESHM, as well as QESHM port. This is according to some unconfirmed reports. Can News is saying an Israeli security official reports that Israel is currently monitoring the ongoing situation regarding U.S. strikes on Iran.
And everything that you just mentioned is within this circle here. All those Bandar Abbas, all those coastal towns. Jask is a little further down, but it's kind of the gateway. Jask is the gateway, so to speak, into the Strait of Hormuz. So if remember how the Strait of Hormuz comes up and takes this sharp bend like that. It's not just a straight way. It's not just straight through here. It's called the Strait of Hormuz, but it's not very straight. So when you consider this curve right here, here's Oman and the UAE. If you want to try to come into the strait, you've got to take everything here. And everything that you just mentioned is in this area, from Bandar Abbas down to, this is the Hormozgan province. So everything you just mentioned is right in here. And that is the area you would have to degrade or control if you wanted to get a naval force through there. I mean, we still have the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit sitting right there, ready for a reason.
I don't know if I spoke to you about this, Anthony, but there was a report yesterday that said that the 82nd Airborne Division was actually stationed in Israel, and the aim of that was to essentially restart the war. Sorry, to do the ground invasion, as per the way you had to take Karg Island. What's your thoughts on this? I mean, this just adds to the point that we were saying, that the original plan was always to do a ground invasion into one of the islands.
Well, the 82nd Airborne Division, the Department of Defense Global Response Force, or the GRF, they've been blown out of Bragg, and they've been deployed for a while now. Where would they traditionally go on a deployment? When we were withdrawing from Afghanistan and staging intermediate bases, we put many of it in Qatar, at Al Udeid, or excuse me, at Doha Air Base. That we don't have that option anymore. You'd be sitting ducks. So to them, put them in Israel at Site 66, where they've created kind of this intermediate staging base, this IRB, in Israel, the closest you could probably get and still have maximum protection. The 82nd Airborne Division has one job: forced entry. That's what they do. Think of the airborne forces in Normandy. Think of the 82nd Airborne Division in Panama and Grenada. That is what they do: joint forced entry, global response within 18 hours anywhere in the world. They're already forward deployed. They've been deployed for a while, just sitting and waiting. So, like we've said before, if you walk into the kitchen and I got sugar, eggs, flour, some baking powder, a bowl, a spoon, and some chocolate icing, and I got the oven preheating, it looks like I'm going to make a cake. We got everything there for this type of war, for escalatory, high intensity conflict. You've got the 82nd Airborne, you got the Rangers, you got Special Forces, you got the SEALs, you got Delta, you got the Marine Expeditionary Units, you got the amphibious response groups, you've got the aircraft, you've got the jets, you've got the refuelers, you got the planes, it's all there. 50,000 of them, 50,000 force with everything but the kitchen. Well, no, even the kitchen sink. Even the only thing we don't have anymore are washers and dryers, because those burned on the Reagan or on the Ford. But they're ready to go. What are they going to be used for?
No doubt. With 6 more explosions reported in QESHM, SIRIK, Minab. Areas in SIRIK, QESHM, and Minab were subjected to attacks by Americans. The American bases in the Middle East are on high alert. Okay, and then the report is based. Irib News says, based on what we've gathered, the impact of the projectiles in SIRIK have been confirmed. In QESHM, the impact of several projectiles have also been confirmed, but the details of their nature and impact are not clear. No explosion sounds have been heard in other cities of Hormuzan province. In addition to that, several drones are currently being fired at from a relative distance. 2 points in Jask and Koh Mubarak have been hit by American projectiles. Tasneem News and Shahab have said Iran will respond to U.S. aggression against Iran as it warned hours ago, affirmed that they will deliver a decisive response to what is described as U.S. aggression carried out under the pretext of an Apache helicopter crash. U.S. officials, as I mentioned, told Al Jazeera that strikes are ongoing. More U.S. officials said more airstrikes against Iran are on their way. So this is continuous. Iran will, I already mentioned that, Qatari airspace evacuated in anticipation of an Iranian response to the U.S. base attack. And yeah, that's the latest news. I mean, this is still ongoing. I'm surprised. I thought it would be a lot more limited than this.
No, I do believe that this this pretense of this Apache helicopter was the very as weak of a pretense as it may be, is what Donald Trump was looking for to restart this high intensity. And mark my words, in this round of intensity and escalation, I think we're going to see another attempt to punch Donald Trump's ticket out of this thing. And the only ticket he can punch, where he can get out of here quick, is again I keep going back to it because it's the only way for Donald Trump to get out of this, to show his base that we went in, we did something. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Netanyahu, they all want a ground invasion. They all want they go into Iran, do it. I don't think there's a military advisor from the chairman down that would ever back or put a real plan together for a massive invasion. That would be slaughter. But for a limited strategic special operations strike, oh, heck yeah. Yeah. And I see it coming. It smells like it.
Qatar has closed its airspace as well. Qatar has closed its airspace. This is quite crazy, actually. It's clearly the war's back on. There's no way Iran now responds with a minimal response. There's going to be a significant response. And what made it clear something big was going to come was because the biggest warmonger in chief, Pete Hegseth, retweeted Trump's tweet about there being a response, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, when you got, and he's been kind of quiet the last few days. So when you see him jumping back on, I'm surprised he hasn't quoted any Pulp Fiction quotes yet. But yeah, this is back on. We're at war. I mean, you cannot put this genie back in the bottle and say that this is just the ceasefire is being tested. The fragile ceasefire still holds in the balance what will come next. No, this is not, well, they did that, and some other country did that, and some other country did this, and though it's involved in the same conflict, it wasn't us. This is now the U.S., Iran, blow for blow. The pretense that Donald Trump needed, something more is coming with all the activity you have in the north coming out of Iraq, all the activity we have in the south. We're not bombing all of these, striking all of these island chains, and especially QESHM Island. For nothing. Something is coming, and it's something that we haven't done yet. Donald Trump's got to try something different.
Breaking news. Apparently, there's reports of possible projectile sightings in Kuwait. And okay, that's it. That's the only one. There is some claims that there is American fighter jets over Bahrain as well. I mean, why would they strike Kuwait? Like, I understand if that's one of many strikes, but Iran said that Kuwait had been completely taken out of the equation anyway, right?
Well, no, they didn't say it was taken out of the equation. They said that the important infrastructure at Ali Al Salim Air Base had been struck. There's still a lot of capability at Camp Arif Jan, at Camp Buring. There is still limited capacity, maybe not for strategic airlift capacity, depending on how much they may have damaged the runways in Ali Al Salim, but there can certainly be capacity to forward stage F-35s, because remember, the F-35 can do vertical takeoff. You don't need a runway. So Ali Al Salim can still serve a limited purpose. It's not totally gone. You can still serve purpose there in terms of quickly staging a KC-135 to establish an aerial refueling point. You could still use Ali Al Salim for some things. Is it degraded? Sure. But along the entire, looking at this, if you're looking at the threat matrix, the enemy disposition composition, if you're Iran, you're looking at the U.S. and Israeli composition disposition. You're looking at that side. You're saying, where is the stuff? Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Qatar. I think Oman is safe. Oman has continually demonstrated their loyalty to their, they kissed the ring and bent the knee. They're still in good standing. Saudi at risk because the 387 bomber wing or bombardment wing, excuse me. Israel, potentially Jordan, if they get involved with allowing the United States to use PHERB, the Prince Hussein Royal Air Base, right outside in northern Jordan. This could draw everybody in, and they would all be legitimate targets from a military standpoint of legitimacy.
We now have
as a target.
Yeah, no, definitely. And now we have some more breaking news. Iran, this is from Sayyid Majid Musavi, says Iran neither surrenders nor gets deceived. We do not trust the enemy's promises and rely on the power of the Iranian nation. What the enemy could not achieve on the battlefield, it will not achieve in the negotiations either. He also said a U.S. official said to Fox News, airstrikes targeting Iran are ongoing, and targets include air defenses and radar installations. This is and Iran has said that they'll be responding. Now, you mentioned something really important, and I think it's very important to highlight. Hopefully people have seen our previous episodes together when we spoke about this. But this is, if you look at the location, you showed the map earlier, this is a saturated attack in a specifically located area around the Strait of Hormuz. QESHM Island we talked about, Bandar Abbas we talked about, SIRIK we talked about. They've attacked the naval bases, the radar system, the telecommunication. This is not out of nowhere. If you want to attack Iran, you could attack Tehran, you could attack Isfahan, you could attack various other places. But quite clearly, this is a first step towards an additional step. Now, Americans aren't stupid, right? Trump, I know people think Trump's stupid, but whatever the decision making isn't stupid in the sense of it was stupid to go to war. But quite clearly, I can see, and I want to know I kind of know your answer, but I want to know if you can elaborate and illuminate on this, Anthony, is Trump's done this major attack on this specific area. He's expecting an Iranian response. Iran's response is going to be what you explained. It's going to be those countries in the Middle East. It's going to be Israel. They're going to be hit hard. Trump's then going to have to respond. Israel's probably going to have to respond. All these countries are now going to have to then do, it's not really a response, but then they're going to do an additional strike. And the question mark becomes, are they going to do more of the same? Yes, they may, but this specific area is now being softened up for, as per what you've described in previous episodes, the ingredients of a cake in order to try another attempt at taking over the islands or taking over the Strait of Hormuz or trying to get some kind of enriched uranium. If you can explain the saturated nature of these attacks and just elaborate, because we have got a huge audience on both and many people may not have heard this, what you think the plan is. Why are they attacking these specific areas?
Well, where we're seeing the concentration of fire, the saturation, as you called it, doctrinally that would be concentration of fire. Where we've seen the concentration of strikes and operations is in that very, very precise area of that Iranian coast, as you, because they're, in the Gulf of Oman, as you travel west, if you're going into the strait, you then have to cut north and then cut west again. It's a very hard turn. That's what gives it its strategic geography to control it. So that way in, that initial, the driveway, so to speak, to get through the garage door of the strait is right there through that area where all of these operations are ongoing right now. All of those operations are happening right now from the U.S. lease striking, all in here. So if you're the U.S. Navy and all of your assets are here and you want to try to penetrate through here, you don't really necessarily have to worry about your left flank with Oman and the UAE. You have to concentrate on that Iranian flank. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And as a response to a downed Apache or a general retaliation of strikes of all the places you can strike, not only striking here, but the concentration and saturation of it is absolutely preparatory for a follow-on operation. This is textbook doctrine in terms of preparation of the objective with fires. So something else is coming through. If this, what we're putting into this now, if we do nothing, Donald Trump then loses that window. He loses this great excuse of, oh, we're attacking because of the downed Apache. Like, Donald Trump's got to do something now, or who knows when the next time is that he'll have the excuse, the opportunity, and everything ready to go. So I think we're going to see a maritime version of the Thunder Run through the Strait of Hormuz to capture the island chains. And again, not to permanently control it. I see, at times people will respond with, oh, why, there's no way we could ever control that and keep that. No, the intent is not to control it and keep it. The intent is to seize, to retain control for a specific period of time, to set conditions politically, whether that's negotiation, whether that's pulling so many Iranian resources here that it provides even the smallest gap of an opportunity to send in a special mission to get the uranium. This is all coming together. And if Donald Trump doesn't do this now, he loses the power of the theater. Then, and if we back down, if Donald Trump backs down now and says, oh, well, we did what we did it, back to negotiating where there are no negotiations. If he doesn't go all in now on this, who knows when the next time will be to where a laundry room fire will happen, or an aircraft will magically just fall out of the sky, or something else that he can blame Iran on. We don't know when the next that next time will be. So we're going to see something more elevated than just this. This is just the opening volley, if you will. This is the shock and awe of something that's coming.
No doubt, no doubt. And just to give you some more news, guys. Oh, guys, first of all, if you're on the X Space, retweet it. Important news. If you're on the YouTube, guys, make sure you like this video. We need as many people in here as possible. We are the place for breaking news, and we do give you live news. Look, we broke the bombing before anywhere else, because we mentioned there was bombing, and then I told I messaged someone. They said there's nothing out there. No one else has reported it, but this is why we break the news fast, we break the news quick, and we break it accurately. So you need to be liking the video and getting people in here, and subscribe to the channel. Have your notifications on. This is the only way you're gonna know. This is the place to be whenever there's breaking news. Now, continuing on. So yeah, do subscribe and have your notifications on. Okay, we also got separate news from the Iran situation, is that there has been, the Pakistan army has also has launched some attacks on Afghanistan. They're saying there's key areas in Afghanistan, bases in Afghanistan that they've struck as well. Obviously, we'll give you that news as well as it comes through. We mentioned this already. Barak Ravid says the current strikes in Iran targeted radar and air defense systems around the strategic Strait of Hormuz area. So even they're accidentally admitting what you just said, right? Which is that it is targeted, it is strategic. U.S. Attacks targeted several locations in southern Iran: SIRIK Naval Base, Jask naval base, air defense platforms in Bandar Abbas, air defense batteries in Menab, and QESHM port. Let's see what else we've got. Strikes are still ongoing, guys. Strikes are still ongoing. So this is major strikes happening. And for deepest irony that there is, the US officials say that they believe that the US strikes will not hinder negotiations. That's great.
It's just,
I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say.
Is Donald Trump doing like a Netflix comedy special?
I mean, he thinks he is.
There weren't any negotiations. Like, I don't know, like where. I don't know where his head is at.
Yeah,
it ain't right.
No doubt. What's the well, oil prices haven't gone up, right? Or am I looking at the wrong thing?
They were at 85 earlier today, and then as we were seeing this confirmation that the Apache was shot down, perhaps it went to 87. It's probably gone up a tad now with this. It's definitely going to shoot up.
Yeah, it should do. Obviously, continue to give you the news as and when we receive it. You know what's strange is yesterday there was a report. There's a report by Can News that said that do you remember that? I don't know if I spoke to you about this, but there was this Emirati plane that had gone to Iran yesterday. There was one individual
with $3 billion.
Apparently, it had $3 billion. Why would they be sending $3 billion to Iran if they were going to bomb them the next day?
Well, that's the it's the classic getting an email from a Nigerian prince who says your grandmother is being held captive, and he, if you send him $10,000, he'll free her. This is that type of grift. I think this is something that Donald Trump and Israel set the trap for this. That let's tell Iran that we have a special gift, we have a special token to show that we're serious. We're going to give them $3 billion of their frozen assets. We're going to do it through Qatar, so there's a cutout. We'll make it look real official. I don't think the foreign minister of Pakistan knew that this was a facade, but I think that he carried the message to Mustafa Khomeini with that, hey, the U.S. wants to make a deal. They're serious. They're going to bring in $3 billion, fly it in from Qatar. They're serious. And I think that was all a facade. That was all a distraction. Do I think that Iran fell for it for a minute? No. Do I think that we ever intended, to have $3 billion on an aircraft and fly it? I mean, I don't even think you can get $3 billion in cash on an aircraft. I mean, it's a lot of, I mean, physically, like it's a lot.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. I just don't think that you could. So when you're looking at, I think that was all a lie. That was bait. That was, because then after it was reported, it just poof, went away and we never heard anything of it. So I think this was another attempt by the administration, by Israel. Seems like Qatar probably knew. I think Pakistan probably didn't know. Pakistan was take this message, we're serious. Pakistan's like, oh, there's a chance, we can really. But then again, maybe, I don't know, because what was Pakistan ready to do? What are they doing right now?
Well, Pakistan's not doing anything. Oh, they're bombing
Afghanistan. They're bombing Afghanistan. Yeah, they're not doing nothing.
Yeah.
You think that just popped up on their radar and they were like, oh, it's Monday, it's a good day. It's Tuesday, it's a good day to bomb Afghanistan.
Great point.
People knew things going into this.
Yeah.
There were targets selected. There were things done. There were it's a great betrayal. And I don't think Iran fell for it. Iran was ready. The response, now we'll see.
And this response that I did see, and just for the audience to know that we do verify, I did see reports that there was some response that had launched, but we didn't mention it because it hasn't been verified. We normally verify from 2 or 3 sources. This was the first time when I said it, I was shocked about this strike, but okay, 1 second. Okay, there may be strikes on Shiraz and Isfahan as well, so take that with a grain of salt though as well. There's a rocket barrage that has launched from southern Lebanon as well. And Iran is saying that the first wave of missiles have been launched towards hostile targets. So apparently Iran has launched their response right now. Iran has launched a response. Obviously, we're going to give you the news as and when we receive it about where, what, how, to whom the response is. But we are hearing that there has been a response launch against.
Well, I would say it's probably a first phase of a response. I think that Iran's response will be in depth and phased. So I don't think what we're seeing right now is the totality of the Iranian response.
No doubt, no doubt. And by the way, the US attacks are ongoing as well. So
yeah, wow. It's a good chunk of time. I remember this is so reminiscent of like March 23rd, 2023 and the shock and awe campaign in bombing Baghdad. And that didn't last. It lasted hours. It was a long assault, but it wasn't just constant. It was, a lot of bombing, it'd go quiet, a lot of bombing, it'd go quiet. This seems to be pretty sustained across the entire region. It's like the powder keg just went off.
You now looking at this from a kind of tactical perspective, if you were Iran, you mentioned that this will be won't be the first wave, it'll be multiple waves. I mean, first of all, how long will their response be? And the second question is, like, if you were Iran now, would you ever go back to the negotiation table until things really do change?
Iran's response, and this is speculation because I haven't verified on what actual damage to various sites in Iran have been, the battle damage assessment. But surely they're going to attack the immediate threat, what's shooting at them, and then they will then attack or respond to the deeper threats of where's the potential to then launch future strikes and what those strikes could be. And I don't mean far into the future. I mean in the future, in the coming hours. They're assessing all of this in real time. So this response from Iran right now, I think, is part of a wave, not the totality of what the response is going to be. And then what was the second part of that?
Would you go back to the negotiation table?
The negotiation table. Well, I think Iran has shown that, now that, the United States, they've even said it in some of their communications that we don't trust them. I don't think Iran comes back to the negotiation table or will negotiate with the United States without an interlocutor that is not in the U.S. pocket, so to speak, that's not controlled by Israel. There needs to be an interlocutor. That might be China. I could see that. And that's something that Donald Trump is just going to have to eat. And I think if you look at who that interlocutor is in those negotiations, Iran is going to have to see real, tangible things. Like, you want us to do this? Well, you have to do this. And not the checks in the mail, not the $3 billion is sitting in the airport in Qatar. You have to show us tangible proof before we believe you. And considering how Iran has been consistently lied to and pulled into the peace, I mean, right now, as the missiles and bombs and jets are flying and blowing up, Donald Trump is still sitting there in the midst of this saying, "Oh, the peace talks are going good." What? Like, when it comes to Donald Trump as the commander in chief, that cheese has slid off that cracker. I don't know who's in charge, but it ain't him.
And so, yeah, I agree with that. I think he's quite clearly been pressured into this. Okay, so breaking news. We are hearing explosions in Bahrain and Kuwait. Explosions in Bahrain and Kuwait right now. So that is apparently the first wave has gone towards Bahrain and Kuwait. So that's the first. There's a response already, right?
Yeah. So it's obvious that the United States keeps hitting Tehran, the United States keeps hitting QESHM, and Iran keeps responding with, again, we're seeing Bahrain and Kuwait. Iranian intelligence is leading them to believe that there is something that is a threat. They're not just wasting missiles. There is a threat at Bahrain and Kuwait. So if you think about where, this combined assault or combined military operation on the U.S. side may emanate from, where would the naval assets emanate from that? Well, Manama in Bahrain with the Fifth Fleet. And where would the land forces and air forces emanate for that potentially? Kuwait. You could have massive forces built up, ready to go out of Kuwait at Camp Arif John, Camp Buren, Camp Arif John, Camp Buring, and surely the lift assets to do that from Ali Al Salim. So Iran clearly sees that there is a threat emanating, or the potential of a threat emanating from Bahrain and Kuwait. They keep hitting it. And to the same point, they're seeing, well, the United States keeps hitting QESHM Island. That means they're probably coming after something specific. And the only way for them to come after that would be if they had A and B. And they think that A and B is somewhere in Kuwait and Bahrain. So there's something there that it's like a dog on a bone. Both for the U.S., that's QESHM, and for Iran, that's Bahrain and Kuwait.
Yeah. I do think that wait, why is this not bringing me on? Oh wait, oops. I do think that when it comes to the Iran, though, they need to expand their attacks, not just
They will
just localize it just within Bahrain and Kuwait. But they did say that, right? They said this is the first wave.
They will expand, and I've said before, they perceive, either through their own intelligence or intelligence that's provided by China and Russia, they perceive that that there is a 25-meter target. It's in the wire. It's in your foxhole. The close fight. There's a threat, a 25-meter target in Kuwait and Bahrain. They are going to expand further to the 50-meter, the 75-meter, the 100-meter strikes targets in the region to Israel. Can they reach Israel? Of course they can. They've done it over and over and over again. So right now, it's like I said before, for anybody that's been in the military, when you go to your rifle qualification and your targets stop popping up, and you have a 25-meter target that pops up, and simultaneously you get the 300-meter target that pops up, you always shoot the 25-meter target first, because in combat, that's the thing that's going to kill you most likely. So you take that out, then you look at the 300-meter target. And in doing so, that's what Iran is doing right now. What's the 25-meter target? What is the most dangerous and most probable courses of action that the opponent, in this case, if you're Iran, you're looking at the United States, what are they going to do? Well, they keep bombing QESHM Island. So they're doing that for a reason. And that reason looks like that they want to seize or retain control, to take away control of the Strait of Hormuz from us. And the only assets they have north of the strait, remember, naval forces to the south of the strait haven't penetrated yet. That's what a lot of the targets to the south are. So if the 25-meter target looks like it may be emanating from Kuwait or Bahrain, that's where you're going to hit, and you're going to hit it again. There's something still there that Iran obviously thinks is worth their missiles.
I'm just reading more reports as well. This is saying that the U.S. attack is going to continue. Trump has said, I believe in responding with force, and this is my approach. We have a very good agreement with Iran, and I believe it will remain so. So he's just talking nonsense. Apparently, the attacks are by U.S. and Iran are ongoing, and they are continuous.
The proportion, this is... Donald Trump's response to this is like if your kid came home and said, "Dad, a bully stole my lunch money," so you go burn down the school. This is wild. And so, you know what? It's not wild, because this isn't proportionate, and this isn't in response to the Apache helicopter. This was planned. This was at the ready. This was ready to go. This is Operation Sledgehammer. We're now seeing it. We're now seeing the great plan unfold under the days of the camouflage, the safety blanket of negotiations, while all the forces were put into position, and all we needed was the spark. And this baloney excuse of this Apache helicopter is the spark that was needed. And again, real or not, I don't even think it was real or not, that's the spark Donald Trump, that's the pretense he needed. This was all planned.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I totally agree with you. I think this is definitely the first step towards escalation and significant escalation. Um, okay, that's not relevant as much. Obviously, we continue to give you the news. There are drones that have been spotted over southern Iraq en route to Kuwait as well. So there are drones that have been seen over Iraq on their way to Kuwait as well. Also, just guys, there was some kind of misinformation, not from us, and we didn't mention it, but just so you're aware, because you might see that and say, why didn't they mention it? So there was some information that people believe that there were some strikes in Beirut and Dahia, but what that was is just some jets basically breaking the sound barrier. And so people thought they were blasts when they weren't. Just so if you think, oh, guess what, there was something in Lebanon, why didn't they mention it? That's what it was. If you want a quick word on that, or even however long you want, about how a jet would basically go over Beirut, break the sound barrier, and make people think that there possibly was a strike.
Well, I don't. The intent of flying jets at supersonic speed would not be intended to make someone think there was a strike. The jets flying that route, we've now seen that it seems to me that this route that they've created, this flight route that they've created to interdict any threats, kind of taking the wing approach, the left hook, is over Beirut and then flying east. We're seeing, and then then we see them over Basra. So that route that they're flying, that they've established, obviously they've secured it. They know they won't get hit. They know they can have refuelers along the route, depending on where those are along the way. But then, yeah, so the reason you hear a sonic boom is when that aircraft breaks the sound barrier and goes hypersonic or faster than the speed of sound. So, a couple things at play here. I think that the sonic boom itself is simply an act of physics. Depending on how you time it and where you time it, can be used psychologically. When in Afghanistan, many a time when we wanted a show of force against Taliban or enemy forces that were against us, if we were fighting them, and we necessarily didn't want to, if there was a nearby village or a nearby civilian structure, and we didn't want to drop bombs or shoot, we would fly a jet, an F-15 or the like over, and they would specifically time that speed variant, that breaking of the sound barrier, the sonic boom, right over the Taliban force, as a show of force, a psychological operation. So it's not a weapon in and of itself, but it does have an effect in terms of we're here, and it. So is it coincidence that as these flights fly over Beirut, you hear these sonic booms and people are like, oh, okay. Oh, we're getting bombed. Oh, no, that's just a jet. It's conditioning. It's normalization to the sound of that. So when it does happen, you have people thinking, oh, it's just a jet again. It's just a jet sonic boom. And the next time it could be bombs. It's all psychological conditioning. Nothing happens as a coincidence. All of these things are planned, from the route the jets fly, from the speeds that they go, from where they're going from point A to point B. These are all integrated into, and it just so happens that it continues to happen over Beirut. Well, that's not a coincidence.
And that actually makes a lot of sense, because they did the exact same thing in Gaza as well, right? If you remember, they would always take these quadcopter drones and basically always be making them go over Gaza to keep the people in a state of fright, thinking that there's going to be
It's all part of the psychological warfare to normalize and condition the population to where it becomes part of the everyday tapestry of life. And then those drones start shooting at you. Those jets that fly over and over and over again, the sonic boom, oh, that's just another jet, until it drops a bomb, and then it's not. It's all part of the psychological conditioning. It's all part of the psychology and the psychological warfare aspect, which is very real. So yeah, the fact that these jets flying the route we know that they're taking, I'm sure these jets, we're going to see them over Basra soon. I bet. They're not there already.
We are also hearing that there are Russian ballistic missile attacks on Ukraine right now as well. Turkey's bombing certain areas in northern Iraq. And obviously this is happening as well. So major escalation on a number of fronts. Obviously, guys, we continue to give the news. We're not heard about any, in terms of, from Iran's perspective, any actual hits. Obviously, we will give you those news, or we will give you that news as and when we receive it. Wow. So, okay, so we are seeing Iranian Shahid drones over the skies of Iraq. Likely those ones are going towards Erbil. So, I mean, just from this, why would, if like when the US is striking, they normally do it in one wave? And is that because of they're using fighter jets or the mode, but they're using cruise missiles as well? And when Iran does it, they do it over multiple waves over a large time period. What's the reason for the difference in tactics?
Well, because Iran is the defender. Iran is in the defense. When you're in the defense, you can stage your defense in depth or your staged outward defense. You can control the op tempo. You can control the rate of which targets you're going to hit at distance. If you're the offense, you have to hit hard at the moment, at the critical point, to then potentially penetrate into those further targets. So what we're seeing now is Iran is exploiting from the defense close targets, far targets, tertiary targets. Those drones flying into Iraq airspace, if they came from Iran, they're most certainly going towards Erbil. There would be no other reason for them to fly over Iraq. We're looking at that. So when in the defense, the defendor, in offensive war, obviously where we're going on now, the defendor always has the opportunity to respond with patience, in depth, outward and inward, whereas the aggressor, in this case being us in Israel, you have to mass and synchronize at the point that you want to exploit for the follow-on operation. There's in the offense, when you're looking at an operation, you have your decisive operation, you have your shaping operations. So right now, what we're seeing from the U.S. are a lot of shaping operations. We're seeing these operations in the south. We're seeing these operations in the north. We're seeing these strikes. This is all shaping. The question is, what is the decisive operation? What is the main effort? It's not just strikes. Right now, what we're seeing are all those shaping operations, supporting efforts to what? That's what we haven't seen yet. Iran, in their defense, from their defensive position in their defending, they have to look at the whole spectrum. So they have to do it in phases because in this particular case, we're talking about nations that now have limited resources. Iran has obviously built back up their drone fleet and their other capabilities, but they still have to keep resources in mind in terms of how they allocate and template the use of these munitions, and they just can't go all out. Whereas the United States in this opening salvo kind of does, in order to, it's all about relative advantage. That's what if war is politics by other means, then combat is relative advantage on the battlefield. And this is all about maintaining or gaining that right now. So as we see these shaping operations from U.S. strikes and U.S. attacks, what's the decisive operation? We haven't seen that yet.
Okay, we are hearing reports that the American strike on Iran has now calmed. So it looks like the American strike on Iran has either stopped or has kind of stopped. This wave has stopped. And now we're waiting for Iran's response. Obviously, Iran's done the first wave towards, it seems like Bahrain and Kuwait. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt. It's been reported by a few people. But do you think this is the end, or do you think America comes in with another wave as well, based on your experience?
Oh, I think that there's more coming, not necessarily again into, because some of these strikes have taken place across Iran, in Iran, along the coast, the intercoastal waterways. So though there could be a tempering of targets all across, I think now we're going to see that there could be additional strikes in that saturated area that we talked about earlier in the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think this is over yet. I think there's going to be a transition to from the overwhelming use of fire, the synchronized use of combat power, Navy, Air Force, to now something more centralized or concentrated. So I don't think this is over. I think it's going into a transition of what we're going to see next.
Oh, sorry. So what I mean by that is, so I'm expecting Iran to respond and then possibly America to respond to Iran's response. But what I mean is, in this specific element, is there going to be another wave, or will they now wait for Iran to respond before they do their subsequent response?
It depends on. So this is where Iran is now getting into the OODA loop, the decision cycle, as they call it, the OODA loop of U.S. forces, to where Donald Trump and kind of thinks of this. Oh, we struck, you struck, we struck, you struck. This kind of this. It's all about, again, that conditioning and psychological warfare. I think Iran has recognized that in that OODA loop to say, okay, they're expecting this. Do we wait, or do we do this, or do we do something else? When do we do it? So all of this, in terms of the tempo and the waiting and the when you strike and when you don't, all goes into the psychological operations against the opponent. So will we see an immediate Iranian response? Did we see it already? Maybe. Did Iran respond in the way that they just did, knowing that the United States will then respond to that, and they're already waiting on third base? Maybe. Is this something that now the U.S. forces are like, okay, we threw our punch. What's coming? Let me dance around the ring a little bit. What's coming? And have we seen that response from Iran yet? I don't think we have yet. So depending on the timing of that response will then determine how the U.S. will respond. But the U.S. can't wait too long. Again, if my hypothesis is accurate, the U.S. can't wait too long to waste this opportunity of this facade or this pretense of our Apache was struck, so now we have to attack you. To achieve what? Well, nothing in this barrage has done anything to bring Iran any closer to the negotiation table. So it's a waste if you don't achieve something, and just bombing things doesn't really achieve anything in terms of negotiated settlement. So as the United States is looking at this, they're like, okay, we can't miss this. We can't let this opportunity go. We can't waste this pretense for this escalation and then not get something from it and go back into pretend negotiations and then have to have another reason that we have to create to then go back to war again. We can't lose this opportunity. That's how the U.S. is thinking. So I don't think this wave might be in kind of a pregnant pause of, okay, what? But there's going to be something again relatively soon.
What's in terms of what we've just seen happen, how much of this has happened because of pressures by the Israelis? And guys, we are looking for the news. Obviously, any news that comes in, we'll give it. For example, there is an explosion in the Houk province in northern Iraq. But obviously, we'll continue to give you the news as and when we do. Okay, now I'm hearing that there are explosions that are being heard in Bahrain, as well as, there are explosions heard in Bahrain right now. So that is the latest news. But I guess the question, sorry, I forgot what question I asked you, but the point was here, political. A U.S. official says that President Trump believes a deal with Iran is still close despite the U.S. strikes that followed the downing of the American helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, the question I was going to ask you was, how much of an impact has the Israeli lobby had on decision making on this?
From the U.S. perspective, it is the most powerful leverage point in all of this. I think it's every step of the way from going into this war, right? We didn't go into this war because we decided we're going to do this and we did it. I mean, Marco Rubio, President Trump, Pete Hegseth. What did Trump say? Well, Jared had a hunch based on what Israel told him. So we kind of, we figured that we'd strike first. Marco Rubio said, well, we knew that Israel was going to strike and we knew that Iran would retaliate. So we struck with Iran first before that retaliation to prevent the retaliation to the strike that didn't happen yet. All of this is being pushed by the Israeli lobby and the pro-Israeli lobbyists and the Zionists in the U.S. government. That is the catalyst behind all of this. It is the engine that is keeping all of this going. Since the beginning of this conflict, this conflict should have never started. It's stupid. We lost from the first shot fired. It was the going to war was the loss, was the failing move. But then everything from that, there have been opportunities to off-ramp. There have been opportunities for negotiation. There have been opportunities to actually have a peaceful negotiation and actually figure out what we're going to do. And every one of those opportunities has been not only set aside, but put in the shredder. And none of that to say, we have no way out until this, not true. There's been plenty of off-ramps for this. And every off-ramp opportunity, there's a big old do not exit, blocked by the Israeli lobby saying, you will not exit here, America. You will continue. And as you're doing it, we're going to spy on you. We're going to commit espionage, and we're going to infiltrate your NDAA, all while you're doing this for us. So keep at it. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And talking about infiltrating while through the NDAA, how big is that? I mean, you've done multiple conversations. I think we were the first people to talk about it. We've done multiple conversations about it. You're right now in Washington, D.C. in order to protest against it. So you must think it's really important and really huge. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's become very clear to me that our own Pentagon, through our own U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, has determined that Israel, the nation of Israel and its intelligence apparatus, is an existential threat to our security and our national security. Force protection condition Delta critical. Doesn't get any higher than that. So in addition to that, our Congress wants to just hem-haw and just allow 224 of HR 880 or the language of HR of section 224 in the Senate version pass to where we're saying we see the enemy, we see the threat, we know exactly who they are. There's no mystery. We're not waiting at the Scooby-Doo moment to take the mask off and it's always been the professor. We know who it is. And we want to give them the threat, the keys to the kingdom. So this is existential. We have to stop this, either in the legislative process now, or build up enough awareness to it to where we can prevent it from ever becoming its own law. And if we, that's where right now that tumor, that parasitic tumor is sitting on our lymph node, and we still can prevent it from going cystic. But it's close, and if we wait till next year when this becomes a law, we are going to go into stage 4 pretty darn quick. So I'm in Washington to do that, to go to these offices, to talk to members of Congress, and you'd be shocked that when you talk to some of these members of Congress, some of them very adamant, like, no, this is for Israel. They're our greatest ally. We have to do this. Regardless of what it says, we have to. And then you have some that are like, no, we can't, like a Ro Khanna or a Thomas Massey. But there's a lot in the middle that you saw them sitting in Congress, sitting in the House, sitting there on their cell phones, playing Minecraft or whatever they're doing during all these votes. And when you go to their offices and talk to them, you'll see like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about section 224 of HR 8800. What's that? Like, you kidding? Like, HR 8800, the NDAA. Oh yeah, that's like that. Just that. The most important document right now of legislation that funds the biggest budget in the entire government. That thing, yes. Section 224. Oh, what's that? I'm not familiar with it. What? So we elect these people. We have no one to blame but ourselves. And the bottom line is that through acquiescence and through just not knowing or caring, this Trojan horse has been slipped in to the NDAA, and it will likely pass. Am I going to change that? Is me being here going to change that? Am I going to go into the Senate and demand change? No, this is happening. But we can raise enough awareness to where enough people know to where we got to get involved before the language of 224 or Joint Resolution, NDAA, Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, and when that becomes law, we have to stop that from becoming its own law. It's already been impregnated, if you will. It's in the NDAA. It will incubate. It will grow. It's a thing. It'll give birth on October 1st to being a thing. So then how do we prevent it from growing? Well, we got to be aware of it first. So my push here is awareness. It doesn't take long to Google the actual PDF of the actual chairman's write-up of the NDAA. You go right to section 224. It's actually called section 224. You can find it in the table of contents. Control F, boom, you're there. You read it. You go, oh my God, this is to a foreign government? What? We shouldn't do this with any government. And then the government that we're doing it with is now considered an existential threat to our national security? What is wrong with us? And if more Americans knew, more Americans would be against it. So right now, my battle, my fight is knowing, and knowing's half the battle right now. At this point, I can't do anything to change it.
Yeah. We've got some more breaking news, and obviously we commend you for going there and trying to stop it and giving that, trying your best to do what you can do. This is the statement from Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran. He said, quote, "Despite its defeat on the battlefield, the US opted to test our determination. Our powerful armed forces will not leave no attack or threat unanswered. Leave our region if you want to be safe. History of the Persian Gulf has many chapters on dire fates of intruding outsiders." Professor Morandi has tweeted and said the Arab family dictatorship in the Persian Gulf enabled tonight's aggression by Trump against Iran, a move that will have significant consequences. So quite clearly, they are stating unequivocally that there will be a response. The response will be against these Gulf states and for them helping facilitate the strikes. The New York Times is saying the U.S. strikes on Iran targeted bases, radar facilities, and artillery at 5 locations along the southern coast. Now, in terms of the attacks on the southern coast, I understand that part of it is definitely in terms of what you mentioned, right? But the other part of it, could it also be, I think you mentioned this a week ago as well, that they don't want to go too deep into Iran because they would get struck upon. They haven't got that many standoff munitions left. And so they're having to calculate on what to do, what to hit, how to hit, and why to hit. And so do you think that the attack on that region was also to keep the American fighter jets safe because of the risk?
Well, obviously for the use of fighter jets, yes, despite what Hegseth said weeks ago, we have not achieved nor met air dominance or air superiority. We're not there. We don't have that. To send U.S. aircraft in would be a suicide mission, or at least very, 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 very risky. So why not deeper strikes into Iran? But then with our missiles, our capacity has become very degraded in terms of our missiles. So what would we strike deep within Iran? I mean, to decapitate the government? Well, we've done that, and now they've gone further into protection. So you probably won't succeed. To behead, so to speak, the IRGC. Well, that hasn't worked, and they've just readjusted to that in terms of their command and control centers and nodes. So deep targets within Iran right now, unless it's very, 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 very specific and worth it, aren't going to be sought right now. And there's limited exceptions to that, but the majority is going to be along those coastal defenses, prepping for what's coming next. I mean, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And we've decided to start at the feet.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I agree with your assessment. I do think that it is a dual purpose in terms of an easy target and also to soften up the area for the possible invasion into one of the islands, especially if it escalates.
I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily characterize the oncoming as an invasion. I would call it more so as an assault or a joint forced entry. Joint forced entry is kind of that we're coming in, we're kicking in the door, we're gonna mess up your living room, and we're out. Where an invasion occurs more so we're coming and we're staying for a longer period of time. I don't think this will be an invasion. I think this will be a limited joint forced entry. Temporary control, not necessarily an invasion.
Fair enough. IRIB has alleged that the U.S. attack on SIRIK in Hormuzgan province hit 2 water reservoirs in the Bobani district, cutting off drinking water to the area. Now, that's quite big. If Iran, do you think if Iran was to respond in the same manner to the Gulf states, I mean, you attack the desalination plants. They, the Gulf states, largely speaking, rely on those desalination plants for water. So, do you think that could be a possible target because they have targeted their water capability?
The Gulf states, if they had any common sense or if they had any lick of sense and cared about their people, through diplomatic channels, they would make it very, 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 very clear to Iran that they do not intend and that they will not, under any circumstances, target civilian infrastructure like water purification or power plants, because that is throwing stones when you live in a glass house, quite literally. That would be to their own peril if they strike water facilities, because you're Iran, you have other options for water. I mean, that your water purification along your coast, it's important, very, very important. But you have alternatives. Not if you're Saudi Arabia, not if you're Qatar, not if you're UAE, not if you're Bahrain. Reverse osmosis water purification facilities gone. Big problems. So that would be very stupid of the Gulf states or the United States, unless the United States did it to then elicit that response to then drag the entire region into the war. But now you're talking about existential, you're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, existence, water. So it would be unwise for that to be intentionally targeted. And I hope that that was something that was kind of not necessarily an oops, but like, okay, we did that, but just to kind of show you that we got it in our sights and we can reach it. But to continue that path of water facilities, energy, power would be a bad and stupid move on behalf of the Gulf.
Yeah, it would be a stupid move. And I always thought that Trump wouldn't do something like that. And I don't think that that was the intended target. That probably was the resulting target without intent.
Yeah.
Because I think he's too afraid that something like that will be responded to in the Gulf state. And he has a huge amount of assets. Personally, wealth. Now, remember we were talking about this, and I said that I do think he's got a large number of assets in the Gulf that we know about, like his crypto and his
of course he does.
He's got a lot of dark hidden assets, and now some of those are starting to be revealed. So he cares more. He don't care about America, but his own wealth, I think he cares about.
Well, in some of the cases, there's like we talk about kicking over the rock and seeing what's underneath the rock. In some of these cases, the rock has Trump written on it in gold. Like, that's there. You're like, okay, that's there. But then when you kick over this rock, you see like, whoa, what's all this? So yeah, it's we're seeing more and more and more of that, to where Donald Trump is going to have red lines for the benefit of the nation, for the United States, which are few, and where are the red lines for his own personal profits and benefits and assets. Jared Kushner owns a lot there too. Jared Kushner owns a lot. I mean, I can imagine right now Ivanka and Jared are asking Daddy to please not strike certain areas where they have, well, that will cause a retaliation where we have all of these assets. I mean, it's sickening. It's sickening when you think of the president of the United States in this war that we're fighting, that the interests of his family, the Trump family, in terms of the land and resources in this area, that does influence their war decisions. It's disgusting.
It is. Totally agree with you. Many people had a problem, quite rightly, about Hunter Biden and Burisma and how he was enriching himself and not putting America first. And this is exponentially worse, not just numerically, but now
they're both wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not. But you're never going to hear me make a comparison to say that, look, this now see, Biden wasn't as bad. Oh no, I think they're all bad. There's two wrongs don't make a right, and both can be wrong.
No doubt. And what I mean by this is the volume of money, because Hunter Biden, what was it? It was like $50,000 a year, a month, or it was whatever it may be. These guys are talking like Jared Kushner, $2 billion. Like, it's not, when you look at the numbers, they're not even comparable. There's major.
I mean, Biden's amount was literally enough to maintain his monthly coke habit. Kushner's is enough to buy islands in Albania.
Yeah, and
Biden had coke money. Kushner's got island buying money.
Exactly, that's the point. And he is trying to buy an island in Albania, and the Albanians are standing up against it. Numerous Russian drone attacks on Ukraine right now as well.
You see, I'm telling you, this is happening in what Pakistan is doing. Oh, we got some unfinished business in Afghanistan. Better time. What better time than now? Russia. We got some things that we wanted. What better time than now?
No doubt, no doubt. People would have known about this, right? And they didn't know about it because Trump already said, "Oh, I'm going to do it" hours ago, right?
Well, I think a lot of the world has figured Trump out and have basically put things in place for the perfect opportunity, knowing that it's just a matter of time before Donald Trump steps in it again. And all at this time, they're just like, wait, this guy's going to keep doing this and present windows of opportunity for other nations, like if you're Russia or Pakistan, or to sit there and be like, I'm just waiting for the next opportunity to give me an excuse, to give me a plausible deniability of I did it because you did it, just waiting for the next time to come. And this was it.
Yeah.
This was it.
Yeah. We've also got reports of Pakistani airstrikes targeting Afghanistan's Kunar, Paktika, and Khost provinces. Reports indicate the strikes targeted militant hideouts linked to Hafiz Gul Bahadur and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP). Neither Pakistan nor Taliban have commented on those strikes, but those strikes are ongoing as well. We've not heard much from the Iranian strikes, obviously, so we're waiting for those. There is obviously the first wave. I think that was more of a smaller attack. I'm thinking it's going to build up, right, Anthony?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we're going to see escalation on many fronts, and dare I say world war, because not all of these wars are interconnected, but they are.
Yeah.
Maybe not at face value, but
and people use
they
it.
are.
And as you just said, people would use it as an opportunity to carry out their strikes, and it'll go under.
We didn't call World War One during World War One. We called it the Great War, the war to end all wars. And then when World War II started, we're like, well, shit, we'll just have to call that one World War One. So, I mean, look at everything that's happening. I mean, is it a regional war? Well, it's more than that. It's more than that. Is it a localized war? Heck no. Is it a regional war? Shit, the bounds of the regional war blew out weeks ago. So then what is it? Half a world war? Call it half a world war? It's a hemisphere war? Well, no, because you got the US involved. Venezuela was part of it when we took Maduro, because Venezuela is OPEC. You didn't think that had something to do with it? So is it a world war? I don't know. What do we call it? Half world war?
Good point.
Half the world.
Russia's supplying weapons. China's supplying weapons.
Russia's supplying weapons. China's supplying intelligence. The things that are happening in this war are directly impacting the decisions of other nations to go to war or at least strike other nations.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yeah. Someone give me a name if it's not a world war. A thing? It's just a thing.
Okay. And apparently 6 U.S. Air Force refueling aircrafts are active over the Persian Gulf alongside a United Nations Navy P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft operating over the Persian Gulf between the UAE and Qatar. So that's the latest. Iran is signaling that it will retaliate against the latest US strikes on the Strait of Hormuz soon. So it seems like the one in Bahrain is very minor. It's like a very minor attack, like a first wave. And because it was drones,
so who said that they're going to respond?
It was Iranian Bloomberg. And
no, the reporting, but what country said
Iran's
going to
respond? They haven't said which country they're going to respond to yet.
Okay, yeah. I understand.
Now, guys, if you listen to the YouTube...
I've lost track of who's responding to who by now.
It is, because there's just lots of news coming out. Guys, if you're on the YouTube, make sure you like this video and also subscribe to the channel, have your notifications on. We've got so many great guests. We've got, straight after this, Lieutenant Colonel Karen Katowski. We've got Larry Johnson coming back. Nice. We've got Ryan Dawson, and then we've got Anthony Aguilar back on again. We've got a huge lineup of people today. So you got to subscribe to the channel, have your notifications on. We are the place for breaking news. Anthony, just a quick question about the Navy P-8A Poseidon. What would these aircrafts be doing? The 6 United States Air Force refueling aircrafts are active over the Persian Gulf right now, and a United States Navy P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft. What would it be doing over the Persian Gulf right now?
Well, your refuelers, obviously, they're up. They're in the air to establish aerial forward refueling points. So you've got your You've got a forward refueling point. You can have it on the ground. If you're a helicopter, you'll fly in, take gas, and take off. If you're a vehicle on the ground, you go forward, you take gas, and take off. You can also establish these in the air by loitering your KC-130, your refuelers in the air to where you have waypoints that are refuel. So if I'm a jet flying, I know like, okay, I put into Google Maps, I'm going towards Tehran. Where's the nearest gas station? Bing, bing, bing. You got a KC-135 flying here. So that's what they're establishing. They're establishing waypoint rally refueling points, which is different than what we talked about before, where you refuel, you fuel up and you go and come. In order to achieve strikes, because we have now aerial refuelers in the air over the Persian Gulf, tells me that this is not stopping anytime soon. This isn't stopping. You've put gas stations up in the air. I mean, and we know that these are critical assets that have been targeted, that we've lost quite a few. You wouldn't risk or waste them. So it's one of two things, kind of like during a hurricane, the best place to put your ship is at sea, right? Keep it in the coast and it's going to get battered. So is this one of those things to where the incoming strikes, that it's safer to put the aircraft in the air rather than have them hit on the runway where we've seen mass destruction? Potentially, but because the Poseidon is also in the air with it, means that you have the fuel, but then you also have, a scout, if you will, something up in the air to help protect against potential incoming by being eyes and ears up in the sky to look around, to watch, to hunt, to seek electronic warfare, radar interdiction, etc. It's we used to call it the compass call because of what it can see and what it puts out. But it's so it's not just fuel in the air. You have fuel in the air, and you have the thing to communicate with everybody, to put it out like, okay, here's these KC-130s. They're here I am, bling bling bling. All of that has to come together through a mobile ad hoc network in the sky, a mesh network to bring all that together, because it's not something that's always established. You can't use Starlink for something like this. So you put up the Poseidon becomes the hub. The Poseidon becomes your internet provider, your wireless in the air to put out to everybody to communicate. Because essentially kind of what you're doing, if this is what they're doing, when you're setting up all these area refueling points in the air, you kind of have to have a traffic controller in the air. Imagine that, traffic control, but instead of down in the tower watching the airfield, you're up in the air looking at all these things to where ping, ping, Falcon 2-2 needs fuel. Okay, Falcon 2-2, hold back steady for 3 knots because Falcon 2-1 is refueling right now. You don't want to have a collision in the air and blow everybody up. So that's what the Poseidon does. It's kind of that traffic control in the air, but it also provides electronic warfare protection and early warning. So the fact that this package has gone up tells me that it's more than just another Tuesday afternoon.
Interesting indeed.
Or Tuesday night.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, always appreciate you coming on. Really value your contribution. You really gave us great analysis for the last couple of hours, telling us and breaking down exactly what happened. The war started while you were restarted while we were doing this stream. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, restarted. We're in like the response. Someone's responding to somebody at this point. Like I said, I have to keep a chart now of who's responding to who.
Exactly. We're on day 102. So everyone, make sure you follow Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. Aguilar for Congress on his website, and for his channels, it's on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, it's Anthony.Aguilar1. But Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get you back on, and then we'll really tell everybody
we'll see you later on.
You. But thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.
I really appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you too, and talk to you soon.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it again. That was Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. We're going to have him back on again. He's coming back on again at 10 p.m. So be ready for that. But guys, if you're listening to this YouTube stream, make sure you like it. Make sure you comment in the main section, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and have your notifications on. That's the only way you're going to know when they're going live. We broke the news that the attack happened before anybody else. We've been giving you live updates as per what we normally do. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, have your notifications on. Next, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Karen Katowski. She's coming on at 7 p.m. Eastern, so we've got 6 minutes till we start there. But in the meantime, if you can like this video, if you can subscribe to the channel, you have to have your notifications on or you won't know we've gone live. For example, these interviews that we're doing in the middle, we don't normally do these interviews. So be ready for it. I said Dubai's in trouble. Yeah, leave Dubai now. But anyway, much love to everyone on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to see you on the link. The link's pinned with the interview with Lieutenant Colonel Karen Katowski. Appreciate you guys on YouTube and see you there. So I appreciate you guys joining in. Appreciate you guys listening.